Hello there, and good evening, or day, or whenever it is you happen to be listening to this broadcast. My name is Holly Boson, and this is my brilliant podcast, Pop Could Never Save Us. And here's some other guy I got to do it with me.
Hi there, guys. My name's James Murphy, and I'm delighted to be on Holly's amazing podcast and also to be here with you all this evening.
So, we're covering the last 2 weeks of the present day chart. I noticed the theme this week seemed to be retro nostalgia, but not for traditionally mined out eras of the retro sphere.
We're getting to a stage now where even the most recent nostalgia blasts have been going over ground that has been very well dug. So I'm really looking forward to the return of 18th century French foppery. I think that there's time for a big comeback for the Venezuelan working class in the 1920s.
Well, we had cowboy nostalgia a couple of years ago, Yeehaw Agenda.
Take my horse to the hotel road. I'm gonna ride till I can't no more.
Anything could happen.
Absolutely, it can.
So the first one on our list was Miracle by Calvin Harris featuring Ellie Goulding.
Calvin Harris is a person who I've enjoyed when he's collaborated with someone with an oversized personality, such as Dizzee Rascal, Dance With Me. Was one of the great ones of, I think it was 2008 when that came out. What he's stuck to here is Ellie Goulding, who's a person, as far as I can tell, who's mostly adored for being the least offensive a person can be. And together, they make a dance song that I find so immobile. This washes out of my hair like extremely cheap shampoo.
I think I like this one a bit more than you do. I don't think this is particularly good, but I do think it does mark a trend upwards for Calvin Harris, who I have found very difficult to put up with. So Calvin Harris, I had his self-titled album back when it came out and listened to it a lot. I still think that is a good electronic music album. It was quirky, it felt hipstery and detached. And then Calvin Harris decided he would go and make just very generic EDM pop for a really long time. He came back to Ellie Goulding repeatedly as a collaborator over the course of the 2010s.
Tonight, I need your love. We did everything right now, I'm on the outside.
Ellie Goulding, she dated Skrillex. And was unfortunately involved with him at the point when he turned from being like the Mozart of electronic squiggles to just making light ambient electronic garbage for Bieber to warble over. This song, however, did intrigue me because it is a move back to the kind of dance music that Calvin Harris was actually making when he was learning how to produce. It's a 1990s dream house track. In fact, you can trace it back to a specific song, which is Children by Robert Miles. Which is considered to be a masterpiece of trance music from 1995. That sound of Children actually came as the result of a social problem in Italy where people were driving too fast, usually while high and drunk, coming home from clubs, and it became known as the Saturday Night Bloodbath. As an attempt to combat this, DJs started playing softer, more dreamy music at the end of sets, and the one that broke out was Children, which has this piano melody. Calvin Harris borrows pretty much the entire sound. However, the Calvin Harris version is bassier. It's reaching down into the kind of places where Jersey Club traditionally reaches. There's a little bit of TikTok bait in the fact that Ellie's voice is audibly sped up. You can hear her vibrato is a little bit faster than it would naturally be. All in all, I did not particularly like this, but I think this is a good direction for Calvin Harris to go in. The EDM sound that he became very wealthy making, the We Found Love kind of sound, that is just so outdated at this point. So him going back to the music of his teens is actually a step forward. And it sounds that, apart from Beyonce with Renaissance and Drake with Honestly Nevermind, we haven't properly had a 90s dance revival yet.
I mean, I'd love to hear the comeback of people like Left Field or Underworld. There's a lot of passionate dance music from that era, whereas Robert Miles's Children is the definition of a track that never caught my attention. I learn now purposely slow to try and stop excess death after drunken nights out. But the kind of born slippy, loud, big beat house music that defined the 90s, I think, yeah, that would be a really welcome presence again if it was to go in that direction.
It is a shame. A lot of these EDM guys did start off being really innovative and then just turned into making generic floor filler. And that's sort of built into the foundation of the genre, which you don't want to throw off the dance. I'm not the kind of person who wants to go around complaining about acts selling out. This is capitalism. Like, they have to. But there must have been just something going on in the 2010s which made it impossible for EDM artists to be supported by the industry people if they took any risks.
Yeah, totally. One of the modern myths is of an auteur against a system.
The definition of an auteur was never someone who creates completely original work. It was always someone who created work that fit into the commercial system that nevertheless had a fingerprint of their personality in it.
I'm definitely ready to see as much individuality in dance acts going forwards, because the DJ as a focus for an entire crowd, the truly great ones have a charisma that you would expect to see on your regular rock star.
One very 90s thing about Miracle is towards the end of the track, there is a drum and bass loop. That's a sound that has been showing up in pop music lately, but not so much dance music for a very long time. So it's cool that being pop allows him to go into these sorts of places.
So with TikTok, so much of it is the shortened message. So I think in some ways it's making for chart music which has to say what it's saying in a much shorter amount of period, has to have a fairly rhythmic kind of theme that goes through one side of it. I think we're now starting to see music that has been created for that milieu, and it's not necessarily been the best music I've heard, the ones that have been set up to be purposely TikTok hits. So
We're going to have to talk about it, are we?
yeah, so before we came on today, you very sadly broke the news that we were going to have to talk about Mother by Meghan Trainor.
I am your mother. You listen to me. You just bum bum bum. Bum bum bum. You.
I think it comes underneath the threshold for what I consider to be music. I think music has to have some reason to exist in and of itself. What Meghan Trainor has done is she has constructed a piece of music that hits a bunch of internet memes in the hope of getting it picked up and used in online discussion. She gets in the Carpenter sample, which was a TikTok meme from long enough ago that it just seems desperately out of touch. She gets Momager Kris Jenner to appear in the music video. She opens it with a sound clip of a camp gay man calling Meghan Trainor so mother right now, going off the current stan slang that is being used on Twitter.
The fact that Meghan Trainor is literally mother right now.
And there's also the shameless lyrical content about Meghan telling off a mansplainer.
Stop all the mansplaining. No one's listening.
which is obviously designed to make people do sassy dances to people being rude to them online. And the whole thing just sounds incredibly bleak.
Bleak is the word. It is some more commodity from Meghan Trainor. And I will give her this. She is a canny businesswoman. She is intelligent about seeing trends, and she is ruthless in tracking them. All of these are personality traits, artistic abilities, which could lead to a truly brilliant pop star if tied to someone who has something to say. If she had not filled this with TikTokable lines, then this would be more bearable.
The video is so bad. It looks like it was made on a tiny budget, unintentionally.
All very ready for online, which shouldn't be a criticism because everything is for online in 2023. It's where we all live. And yeah, I can't help but feel insulted by being pandered to.
I think it's designed to appeal to a certain variety of imagined gay fan or female fan who identifies with that queer fan base. This is a kind of stan culture that is known for just defending mindless and uncritical consumption if the celebrity that they have a parasocial relationship with is doing it. I don't think that these people need to be encouraged. Not for the homosexuality, don't get me wrong. I just think that that's a really shameless part of the exploitation here. She has this idea that she is a gay icon, which to my analysis does not seem to be borne out by the actual people who listen to Meghan Trainor, which appears to be women who are older than me.
Yeah, I don't want to upset the Meghan Trainor fan community because I assume they're fucking awful. I hope we don't have too many songs that are entirely geared towards making TikTok happy, because it will be the end of the charts. There's a Nostradamus prophetic warning for you.
It all feels a bit like the AI thing. One of the other songs on our list is 10:35 by Tiesto.
It's 10:35 and I'm thinking, God, you found me, that you found me. Every day I go places.
I think, similarly to Meghan Trainor, this also does not meet my qualifications for what I would consider to be music. Tiesto actually made this as an advert for the Atlantis The Royal Hotel in Dubai. And he said the song was to reflect the dual experience of the hotel. So I don't know. I don't want to review hotel advert music.
You see, without that context, it's so strange how different, again, commodities can hit you, because this struck me as being a lot more earnest in its creation than Miracle by Calvin Harris. It felt to me like it was about a very particular feeling, a very particular time in your life. I think Tate McRae's vocals go a long way to get this over the line and away from its Dubai hotel beginning.
So many things that I'm afraid of, but right now I'm scared of nothing.
I think that she's got a certain yearning in her voice that you can often lose in a lot of the auto-tuned sounds that were filling up the charts about 2 years ago. So yeah, this one worked better for me than the other, but of course its root in an advert is another very slightly nauseating 21st century thing.
Yeah, I personally much preferred Miracles to this. I thought this sounded outdated. There's parts of this where you think it's going to kind of go into dubstep. It's got that kind of folk pop melody that was just all over the charts in 2016, all over the Eurovision Song Contest. And I'm just tired of this sound. I can only assume there's just a dance floor in prison somewhere where they're all just still grooving to this stuff like it was 2015. They see no reason to interrupt the party. They probably also really like that Bebe Rexha one. And I'm glad they're having a good time. You know, this is not music made for me because I hate dancing, I hate clubs, I hate people. And to be honest, after that run, I hate music as well. And I don't want to do the podcast anymore.
Damn, that's a shame. We've really miscalculated the way that we set the show up there.
Yeah, we said we weren't haters, but...
Okay. Let's talk about something that I think is a touch more interesting then, and we'll go on to People by Libianca.
From Bamandait, Libianca. I've been drinking more alcohol for the past 5 days. Did you check on me? Now did you look?
Now this is unusual because it struck me as, on the listens through, very authentic. It felt to me as though this had sprung out of a pop music scene that I was previously unaware of. But I found out that this vocalist had come up through the US version of The Voice. Which
Yes, and was mentored by Blake Shelton.
If you're calling about the car, I sold it. If this is Tuesday night, I'm bowling. If you got something to sell, you're wasting your time. I'm not buying.
None of which would point towards making a innovative new direction for pop music or even into a new subset. I think that's what she's managed here, and she's also done something that is very important to me that I've already spoken about with the songs that haven't worked. It feels personal. It feels like it's about something that she's gone through, and it comes from a depth of feeling and emotion while still working as a rhythmic track that has the potential to make somebody dance.
We talked a little while ago when we were talking about Calm Down that the pop charts are getting increasingly global, and it's cool getting a big hit in the UK, which is just obviously an Afrobeat song. The best parts of this song is how shamelessly African it is. The production sounds like a kalimba.
Inside my grave.
There's also this really beautiful African gospel choir that sort of comes in. Especially sort of towards the part that I think makes the song work, which is when Libianca stops talking to an assumed lover and starts pleading with God.
It's a change that comes in the song. She's asking, has someone been checking on her?
She says her eyes are red and they know she doesn't smoke drugs. Yeah, so that means she's been crying.
Did you check on me? Did you check on me? Did you notice?
Libianca suffers dysmorphia, which is part of the reason she wrote this song. And I really think this is a song where the lyrics are the reason why this connected with people. The lyrics do sound heartfelt. They feel like they are written by someone who has been there.
It comes from the heart, it clearly does. And I think that this is something that is especially connecting in a post-lockdown world. It's got that sense of deep isolation and people being too locked up with their own selves. I think you're right, absolutely. It's the lyrics that make this song, but how nice is it to hear an Afrobeat song that's coming up the charts? I can still remember when they were the domain, as far as people were concerned, of the strange, weird hippie. You know, it's a middle class kind of thing to listen to world music. It was called at that time. It's nice to see it break out of these ghettos into the pop charts.
And the fact that some of the song is written in Cameroonian patois is also like very cool.
I love those little details. It's nice to be faced with slang that you don't understand immediately. It's nice to hear these different accents up and down our charts. So next on the list is Us Against the World by Strandz.
Us against the world, us against the ghetto, us against the police, us against this hoe.
I think there's a danger of me developing a huge pro-hip-hop bias on this show because anytime any rapping appears, I seem to clap my hands with delight like a child watching a magician. Every time it seems that what we get across in the charts with rapping on there is really cool, unexpected takes on the genre. So when I realised what this song was, I hadn't been previously familiar with Strandz. I was like, well, you got to dislike this one now, just for the sake of form. Unfortunately, I don't. It really works for me. I particularly like the remix. I think that's better than the version that's sitting on the charts.
I've got errands that I've got to run. Get ready if you want to come. My Kia bags of washing and I'm dropping them off to my mum. Fill my car with petrol, it's not diesel, use the other pump. I knew from when I seen you, you ain't nothing like them up.
This is a story of a not particularly good human being who's in love with someone, and that's making them better.
If I say you with me, then you really with me. This an ugly world. Do you feel me?
I like the chorus of this. I like the way it's structured, and I like the way the rapping reminds me of Exhibit.
Ever since Exhibit could spit, been on some pimp shit. Approach every woman like a potential mistress.
Yeah, like, I'm in danger of just relying on my own millennial biases here, because part of me is just going to be wired to the kind of sounds that I heard when my brain was forming. And this is like 50 Cent. Like, in terms of the musicality of it, in the production with those massive smashing drums and that little electronic harp, it's modelled after Get Rich or Die Trying era 50 Cent.
Put a hole in a nigga for fucking with me. My back on the wall, now you gon' see.
Like the way that you're moving around me, I went fully lit on the day that you found me.
And the way he uses his voice is very similar to 50 Cent. There's that very sort of noughties enjambment type rapping. Enjambment, by the way, is a poetic term for when an idea is made to flow over to the next line. As in, higher when we sober and we higher than the stoner, you know.
Money higher when we sober and we higher than the stoner. I'm a slab in the sober car, we die for the closure. I mean, us against the world.
That part really just immediately should send you like thinking of Shady Records.
Cause I'm a stunner, I sit back and wonder when them angels gon' call my number under my chest is a heart of a lion.
And also you get the reference to Tupac in the title being Us Against the World as opposed to Me Against the World.
It's just me against the world, baby.
Me against the world.
You also open up with a chipmunk soul thing, a la Kanye West.
And you broke a window pane.
Although, to my ears, it also sounds like Ella System's Afraid to Feel, which is still in the charts, so that's how it stays relevant. But it is interesting just how huge an influence 50 Cent ended up being specifically on European rappers. I don't think there are really any big American rappers who sound like him anymore, but Strandz grew up in Germany and then moved to the UK. 50 Cent happened to be the biggest rapper at a time just after globalization had just kind of blown everyone's doors down and everyone was listening to the same music for the first time.
The slang in this song is particularly American feeling, straight out of the turn of the century. I can't remember the last time I heard Shorty like in a British UK song, and the whole polysyllabic rhyming, the internal rhymes that turn up here as well. As you say, it's extremely Shady Records. I think that there's parts that feel completely rooted in now, whipping it to the city. That's a more recent slider slang. Yeah, as I say, I was reminded by Exhibit, but yeah, 50 Cent's 100% in here as well.
The mention of the mansion in the country is also relevant socially. That is a reference to the county line system of drug dealing. We mentioned that when we were talking about Central C earlier,
yes.
that he talks about how he's going to go to the country, and it's ambiguous whether he means he's going to get out of London or if he's just going to go back to dealing drugs.
Yeah, it's something that's very present in the culture of young people in disadvantaged areas and is coming up through the music. We're seeing it again and again now. And I suppose what it does mean in a rather blackly ironic way is he's getting people who would never have even looked at the countryside, who would have been confined by urban planning to city environments, beginning to feel something about the nature that's not that far away from them. So
yeah.
absolutely no boon to the drug dealers, but it gives a certain set of ambitions and a wider sense of the country that's around you.
I really enjoyed this one a lot. It doesn't overstay its welcome either. It's about 3 minutes.
Perfect. What more do you need? Next on is a second appearance for Taylor Swift here. She seems to be really enjoying being Taylor Swift right about now. This one's called All of the Girls You Loved Before.
Your past and mine are parallel lines, stars all aligned, and they intertwined, and taught you the way you call me baby, treat me like a lady. All that I can say is all of the girls you loved before made you the one I
just feels to be a big monument of Taylor's voice. The way the song's written, it reminds me of the 60s girl groups, not the Ronettes or the Crystals, not that top tier Phil Spector stuff, but the next rung down, the Shangri-Las, who would sing these songs of heartbreak, but it wouldn't have the touch of megalomaniacal genius that Spector brought. They were often more concerned with lower scale, more human things. The vocal melody, that's what Taylor's reaching back to. Underneath it has that kind of trancey, quiet piano and synth that's going on. But as I say, mostly what you get in the delivery is Taylor's own voice. And that seems to be where she is artistically at the moment.
My notes for this one read functional. This is a song built around a conceit that was done better by Ariana Grande a few years ago with Thank You Next.
I'm so fucking grateful for my ex. Thank you, next.
Which is the idea of the bad relationships making you stronger, making you a better person. Taylor does nicely describe both the man becoming a better person through this trauma as well as her. But unfortunately, she marries it together in this kind of smarmy, megalomaniacal thing of, I love you the best though, I'm the best one. It's intended to be funny, but to be honest, I know she's the one who you're supposed to say, oh yeah, well she's actually an excellent songwriter, but I don't get it. I've listened to loads of her music and I've never, ever got it. Am I just deaf? Are my ears tin and don't work?
I mean, there's Taylor songs I liked. I liked her when she was absolutely embracing the I'm a 17-year-old with feelings too big to express, like in Love Story.
Then you were Romeo, you were throwing pebbles, and my daddy said stay away from Juliet, and I was crying on the staircase, begging you please don't go.
I liked her song Shake It Off. I thought that was a great, catchy dance pop track.
I never miss a beat. I'm lightning on my feet, and that's what they don't see.
I liked You Belong With Me.
I'm in the room, it's a typical Tuesday night. I'm listening to the kind of music she doesn't like, and she'll never know your story like I do.
A Style, I think, is my favourite song I've ever heard from her. And part of that is down to her vocal performance. The way she sort of sings that line when he takes off his coat.
Takes me home. Lights are off, he's taking off his coat.
This puts everything in this kind of voguish synthwave gloop.
When I think of all the makeup, fake love out on the town. Crying in the bathroom for some dude whose name I cannot remember now.
I think that this was much better done by Little Mix on Shout Out to My Ex.
Oh yeah, that's a really good song actually.
Yeah.
I listened to that in a charity shop and it brought me nearly to tears.
Beautiful song.
You're really quite the man. You made my heart break and that made me who I am.
Next up is Red Flags by Mimi Webb.
Don't take a genius, yeah, I see it. Even my friends hate that I'm with you. A million reasons should be leaving. I need more hands to count all the issues, but I keep on running through these red flags. I blame myself cause I know it's bad, but I keep on running through these.
Now, I quite liked it. I did. I thought that unlike the other so-called dance songs on this actually did make me dance. I think that there was something to the beat. There is a complete lack of originality here, of course, because this is just a Lorde song.
On the aisle, be seeing you down every road. I'm waiting for it, that green light. Cause on the aisle, come get my things, but I can't let go. I'm waiting for it, that green light. Oh, honey.
But Lorde is an interesting enough and melodically inclined enough artist to have a couple of these copycats riding her coattails. This worked for me. I think it had a good sense of momentum, had a good sense of dynamics. Again, it doesn't outstay its welcome at all. And it feels, while of course based on the experience of dating as a very young person today, I think it does kind of reach an emotional pitch as well, a sense of liberation from this shitty amount of people that you have around you.
I thought it was a better song than the Taylor Swift one, but I didn't connect to this one at all. I thought the punchline of this cartoon guy type Twitter villain man I'm very tired of. It all felt very received. It all felt like an attempt to sort of talk about an internet archetype rather than actually based on any real experiences, especially with the video, which turns it into this scenario with captions as he does all these toxic things like being controlling and taking up space. Or I also could not figure out what the percussion in this track was doing, which I guess just shows that deep down we're all just going to respond to different grooves.
At the risk of sounding kind of condescending to younger people, isn't it the case that rather than experiences, a lot of what they have are internet archetypes and they use those through which to view the world and relationships?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like with a lot of my older songs, I was mostly writing about internet archetypes rather than people, and it's one of the things I want to move away from now that I'm older. As long as pop music is all going to be made by young people for young people, it's going to be around the life experiences of people who don't have a lot of life experience. Now the internet is becoming the dominant way that we socialize. We're going to be learning life experiences from everyone else talking about theirs to the point where we're all getting completely mad about people who probably don't even exist.
It's not just young people, of course. Older filmmakers can fall in the trap of just writing about internet archetypes, as the recent Knives Out movies has proved.
And I think that was another thing that I didn't really sit with on this track, which is that the experience of having a terrible boyfriend like that is traumatizing. If you were actually dating a red flag boyfriend, it isn't fun or sexy or playful, which the video and everything tried to make it. So you end up with these campy dance routines while the subtitles flash up saying controlling. But it also wasn't messy enough to fall into that place of the fantasy of like making yourself feel bad.
Yeah, no, I can absolutely see where you're coming from. And I think that we didn't have a lot of songs like this where we see the world through a young artist's eyes who's seeing the world through a slightly older man or woman who's posted a lot on Instagram. But I imagine most will grow out of it. I'm sure that there will be among this crop a number of Ray Davies and Pete Townsends that are going to come up and look at the world around them and write things like dedicated follower of fashion. Was Ray Davies at that stage writing about a guy that he had read about in the NME? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like you said, this kind of writing is just ancient in rock music. All of those teenagers growing up writing songs about characters they knew from records made by older musicians, you know? In some ways, the internet version should really be an improvement. It's just, it annoys me personally because I spend 14 hours a day reading Twitter, so I feel like I've done it all.
Yeah, and of course this show is about how you respond to music, so that's absolutely fair as a reaction. Let's talk about something that I think has a lot more positivity behind it, and that's Players by Coi Leray.
If you don't know, now you know. If you broke, then you gotta let him go. You could have anybody, any money, mo. Cause when you a boss, you could do what you want. Yeah, cause girls is players too. Yeah, cause girls is players too. Keep it playing, baby.
Oh, wow. Yeah, this one opened up like a great big sunbeam and restored my desire to do this show. I really loved this. Unfortunately, this is a track by a young woman where it's going to be really difficult for us to talk about it without ending up talking about old men. And I want to try and limit that, but it does seem like it is relevant. I want Coi Leray to have her moment. She's earned it. However, there is a lot of context to this record, which does revolve around old men, and is part of why I like it so much. So yeah.
It's the first thing as an old hip-hop head like myself that comes through is this is The Message, the first lyrically conscious hip-hop track that reached the charts by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. I believe the bulk of it was done by McRae.
Don't push me, cause I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under.
What you've got over the top of that is just this wonderful looping Lil Wayne style freestyle. It's got a mixture of that nostalgia for the clapping hands in simultaneous rhythm of the earliest rap for the schoolyard, where you follow what you heard at the Bronx down at the party the week before. There's a playground sense of joy and fun of playing with your older brother's record collection. And then there's this very modern, very kind of just loose flow through of anti-sexist attitude that's complicated and fascinating and so modern. There's nth wave feminism going on here as well. I absolutely adored it.
Yeah.
The world, cause girls is players too.
So Coi Leray is a SoundCloud rapper, and SoundCloud rap has been very controversial, and one of the things that its defenders like to say is that it revives the old school style of rapping, which wasn't particularly lyrically complicated. It wasn't based around doing double entendres and clever bars. It was based around flowing over to a beat and getting everyone in the room dancing.
Cause all we know is biz, I just might snatch a Ferrari and buy my boo a limb.
That's not really the case for a lot of SoundCloud rap, because ultimately that just means like rap that people are posting on SoundCloud. You can't control what people are putting on the internet. But this track seems to be really cleverly built around exploring the parallels between this kind of punky, youthful style of rap that originated on SoundCloud and that scene, and the proper old school ancient rockist analysis of hip hop, where it all goes back to Grandmaster Flash and Melly Mel teaching us how to rap about things other than putting our hands in the air. You know, there's been a few records a bit like this that have been in the charts. Super Freaky Girl by Nicki Minaj, and Big Energy by Lato.
Bad bitch, I could be a fantasy. I could tell you got big, deep energy.
A girl rapper rapping over a very obvious sample that everyone knows about from a 90s or 80s rap song. But this is easily my favourite out of those, because it does capture what was so good about 80s rap in the first place. There's a rawness to her voice that to me evokes a lot of the very young female MCs of the 80s, people like Roxanne Shante.
That I see him, he says, you see, compared to me this week, compared to mine.
And there's also an androgyny to her voice as well. A lot of the female rappers of this current generation are very sexualized.
He's searching for it on Chrome. His dick smaller than my toes.
Coi is a little bit sexy. She talks about people wanting to take a bite out of her apple bottom jeans.
Apple bottom make him wanna bite.
But basically, she sounds bratty, and I mean that in the best possible way. And that sort of leads me into the other interpretation of this track. Do you know about Coi Leray's father?
I don't know, no.
Okay, so Coi Leray is in fact the daughter of one Ray Benzino.
Ray Benzino, an 83-year-old fake Pacino.
Editor of The Source, the most important hip-hop magazine, until the year 2005 when he resigned due to some stuff. Benzino was well known for being a complete idiot and was known for awarding 5 mics to his own projects, which was actually what caused his staff to mutiny on him. 5 mics, by the way, in The Source was a very prestigious thing that's only been given to about 20 albums throughout the publication's history. Benzino is possibly best remembered for being the unfortunate muse of a lot of Eminem's songs from 2003.
Go to sleep, bitch. Die, motherfucker, die.
It ended up escalating into a massive feud. They're still at it. Benzino is the closest thing Eminem ever had to an arch nemesis.
You dyed your hair blonde, I'ma make it red. How you gonna sell records, Marshall, when you dead?
Unfortunately, I do have to bring this up. Benzino was not a very good father to Coi Leray. We can't really call her a nepo baby because a nepo baby would imply that there was some actual nepotism going on. Benzino appears to have been somewhat negligent towards her until he realised that she was making money. She gave an interview on The Breakfast Club in which she talked about how funny it was that her debut album was dropping on the same day as her father was going bankrupt, and also has made multiple negative remarks about him, saying that she hates remembering that she is his daughter and he makes her feel sick. Benzino came back to her by making a string of tweets that were obviously in response to her, although they didn't mention her name, about how young ones today never respect their elders in the game. They don't know anything about hip-hop history. The song itself, if you take the lyrics literally, it's about a boyfriend who is annoying Coi, and, you know, she's moved on to other people and she's rich, so she didn't have to deal with him, right?
Yeah. He the one, I got like 4 of him. Yeah, I'm sitting first class like valedictorian.
But I think it's an allegory for her father, while proving wrong everything that he said about her not understanding the legacy of hip-hop and what it's about. At one point, she refers to herself as a 5-star bitch, which I feel is like a reference to the 5 mics. The second verse is interpolated from a Biggie song.
On and on and on and go take them to the crib unless they want easy.
I go on and on again. He blowing on my phone, but I'm ignoring him.
And also, the first line of the song is what you know about living in a penthouse. The crucial part of Eminem's Nail in the Coffin, which is considered to be the diss track that finished Benzino off, is a part where he goes through a string of lines which all begin with the phrase, what you know about, in the same cadence.
What you know about living on the top?
What you know about it? Pop shops, rockin' spots.
In Nail in the Coffin, Eminem talks about his daughter and then says,
when this is all over, I would never try to make her a star and eat off her.
And he was criticizing Benzino's attempts to make his son Ray into a rapper, and using his magazine in order to nepo his projects into success in order to make money off him. It has actually borne out well. Eminem was exactly right. Benzino would attempt to sponge off his daughter, and I feel that this song is simultaneously proving that she is a far better rapper than him, far more respectful of hip-hop history than him, aligning herself very teasingly with his enemies, while at the same time just delivering just like a really fun rap track. It's marvelous.
Does this then make Benzino the Frida Kahlo of hip hop, just being the muse again and again for this incredible work? I certainly hope not.
Oh goodness, I just imagined him with a unibrow. It's worth pointing out Coi Leray is extremely beautiful, and Benzino has been compared unfavourably to a Ninja Turtle.
But to focus on the music of today, Players, I think, is going to live forever. It's got that youthful exuberance, and it marries the kind of punky SoundCloud, we're here doing it in one take fun, to the original punky innovativeness of hip-hop when it first came out, when it was the brash new thing on the scene. It's got a lot of space in the sound. It knows exactly how to use the sound palette, and Coi, as you say, is a really good rapper.
There's a couple of remixes of this. Did you get a chance to listen to those?
No, I was very much stuck on the original.
The one that actually got the TikTok play, and the one that has the music video about it, is a Jersey Club remix, which I believe is the most popular version of it.
About to catch another fight, yeah. The apple bottom make him wanna bite. I just wanna have a good night. I just wanna have a good night.
It's a pretty good remix. I think the bass sections of it are a bit muddy, but it's fine. And there's also a version of it with a different beat, which has a Busta Rhymes verse.
No delaying again, it never ends. The way we doing it, how we fucking them up.
I'm sorry, Busta Rhymes is one of my favourite rappers. I love him to bits, but Coi Leray is actually better than him on the track.
Wonderful. I think that's everything. So I think fair to say our pick of the week then is Players.
Yeah, absolutely. That will probably go on my forever playlist.
Ditto. Absolutely. Well, come join us again next time, where we'll be surprising you with even more wonderful pop stuff. As ever, we love to grow the show, so if you want to let people know about it, that'd be great. Let them join the party. But until then, we'll see you when we see you.
And we'll be heading back in time for our next episode.
Good night, everybody.
Peace.
You don't know me, you're my motherfucking mother, you motherfucking punk. Put me on your fucking cover just to sell your little sellout mag. I ain't mad, I feel bad. Here's an ad, here's a poster of Ray and his dad. You wanna talk about some shit that you don't know about? Yeah, let's talk about how you putting your own son out there to try to eat off him, cause you missed your boat. You're never gonna blow, bitch, you're just too